Good afternoon, Dr. Shankopotamus here, back in the garage. Here we go, and I'm working on the 2009 911 Turbo. A couple of things. This car has high flow exhaust that we put on it. Works great. I think it adds about 50 horsepower, if not dying on it, but that's what they say it should add. Also has enlarged intakes, which gives it a little more horsepower. It's nice, a little more throaty sound too. But the problem is with the high flow exhaust on this particular engine, the Metzger engine, the computer doesn't like that. And so it keeps throwing the check engine light and a little go see your mechanic light and all this kind of shenanigans. And every time I run the diagnostics on it, it's always the O2 sensors. Well, I do have a video I think I might have posted where I replaced the O2 sensors about a year ago because I wasn't sure how old they were. I wanted to make sure that wasn't the problem first, so I put all new O2 sensors, and still it occasionally kicks that out, and it'll do it. Some days I can drive it for days, nothing, and then other times I start it and within 30 or 45 seconds of starting, the light comes on, and it's always the O2 sensors, and I know they're good. So after a little bit of research, there's a couple things that I found you can do with these cars. If you have one of these and you've put high flow exhaust onto it, I've read it from some people that you can map it. You can map it for a GT2. And if you put GT2 mapping into the engine, then the computer doesn't really care so much about the high flow. It's looking for a higher flow, and it seems to do okay. That's one thing. Another thing is these little bad boys. If you can see it right here. I don't know if you can actually read on there. It's hard to see, but it says FabSpeed, okay? FabSpeed. My exhaust is not a FabSpeed, but on their website, they point out that if you're getting a check engine light, it's gonna be your post-catalytic converter O2 sensor, and the problem is that you need this. And they said if it's throwing a light, then you put these on, it's gonna fix them. Like I said, mine are not FabSpeeds, but I'm really hoping that this little thing is gonna do the job. It's actually, if you look down inside of there, I don't know if you can actually see, it's actually a little catalytic converter. So this little section right here is its own little catalytic converter to keep it out of the direct stream. So the O2 sensor is going to go over here, and this is going to hook into my O2 sensor slot. Based on the layout here, the angled ones are what you need for this. At least I hope when we get in there, but yeah, that's what you need. So anyway, we'll get to work on it. I'll show y'all how it works. I've done this a couple times before. If I did post the other videos, maybe I did, maybe I didn't. But there is a bit of work involved once you get up underneath into the back end here. I love the engine on these things. If you haven't seen one, they're just so tight. They're just awesome. I will tell you that getting a hold of the fuel filter back there is kind of a pain in the fanny. But anyway, so what we start off with here, let's get up here. We start off taking the screws off here that hold it. Then you have to go around the side. You have to take the wheels off to get in the fender well, remove the fender well, and undo the screws that are securing this underneath the fender well. And then your lights have to come off because there's another screw in there you've got to get a hold of to get this all the way off. I'll show you the steps as we go through. And then up underneath the bottom of this, as I recall, are a couple of screws you got to get a hold of as well. So I'm going to go ahead and start taking these off. I'm going to take the wheels off first, then we'll get a look at the fender wells. All right, here we go. All right, a couple things that can come in handy when you're taking your wheels off. Let's just show you these little guys right here. These are Schwab. But anyway, this is nice magnetic protector, right? They look like this. Set of 3 here does almost all of them that you need. And this end is magnetized. So this is non-marring, doesn't scratch up your paint. And this keeps you from dropping your lug nut or your lug bolt, whatever it is. Nice, handy dandy little lug set, okay? Another thing that comes in handy to use is to have yourself an impact wrench. This one's a little bit big. I also have an impact wrench that plugs into my compressor back there. I find this one's just handy to run around the car with. A little bit heavy, a little bit bigger maybe than what you would need on average, but this is, use this out on the farms. This is pretty big, LXT Makita 18 volt. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and take the wheels off. Okay, another thing I forgot to mention, you're gonna need this to get these wheels off. Each one of your wheels has a lug bolt that is, it's sort of a safety thing. If somebody has the car and they know where to find this, they can take this off. If you're gonna leave it at home, somebody doesn't steal your wheels. But if they can get into the car, they can get it. This is up in the bonnet, up in the front, near where your tire repair things are. In this 911, it's off to the right-hand side, back right-hand side, just to lift up that cover, the carpet on the bottom, you'll see it sitting right there. So anyway, you need that for one bolt on each wheel. Alrighty. All right, so we've got the Porsche up a little higher here, up on the lift. Okay, and wheels off. There you go. Is that it? Yep, big old things. Anyway, thanks to the magic of video, it seems like 2 seconds ago we were looking at taking everything apart. I decided, you know, you can actually reach the post catalytic converter sensor right up here. You can get a hold of it, get it off, and I thought, I won't have to take the whole back end off. I can get into here, get this off, put the new FabSpeed spacer onto there. There's just not enough room. You can get it onto there, but you can't get the O2 sensor in. So I'm gonna have to do some rerouting of the O2 sensor wires, and that means back to my original take it off. Here's our sensor hanging right here. So yeah, so we're back to getting it all off, and I have removed the 4 screws on the top that are holding it on. You see here you've got screws like this, just look underneath. Here, 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 okay? And then as we come around, you're gonna have to remove, you can see up in the fender well, here, I'll bring it down. Then there's a screw up in here, okay? And eventually that loosens this up, here's one here. Just look around and catch all your screws. Then once you can get this off, then you can pop this out and take your cover off the back. And we'll go from there. All right, so looking at the passenger side, just to show you one of these, you know, this piece comes off very easily right here. Take out the screws, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 torque screws, and just lift it right out. That gives you access to your, oh, sorry for moving the camera on you. It's gonna be a screw right here that you need to get a hold of to unhook this cover, all right? So I'll get the other side off, and then you're gonna go after this one right here, and then I'll show you how we work it off the back end. So we gotta get the back tail lights off too, all right. All right, one thing to be careful of, when you take these screws off, I'll show you. They look very similar. Can you see that? Yeah. One of them has a little ledge on it though, and that's to protect the paint and to protect the bumper so you don't squish it and crack it, for lack of a better word. And the screws that are underneath, see how they're flat, all right? The other thing is, one of them is a T25, which is smaller and underneath, and the larger one is a T30, okay? So a little bit larger screw as well. When you're ready to put them back together, they look very similar. Just don't get them confused, because if you put these flat ones onto the bumper over time, you're gonna crack the bumper, okay? You're gonna end up cracking the plastic around where the screw goes in. So just be wary of and careful of which screw goes where we start putting it back together. All right, so for getting the back tail lights off, you see here's the passenger side that's still on. You've got these two, leave this one alone. There's no reason to go after that. These two, you don't have to take them all the way off because they're in slots where they'll slide out. Actually, you might drop that washer and all kinds of fun stuff, then go hunting for washers, that'd be awful. But anyway, just loosen them up, okay? Like I've done here, loosen it up, and once you loosen it up, it'll just pull straight back, okay? The reason you gotta get this off is because you're after this bad boy, let's get it this little bit, right here. If you don't take him off, you're gonna break your bumper cover trying to get it off, okay? So you gotta get your lights off. They're LED in there. Another thing, I didn't do it this time because I forgot we're gonna disconnect the lights. But you know, there's connection back in there. You're gonna need, knowing this from doing it before, you're gonna need a computer, because once you pull those off and plug them back in, it's gonna give you an error that the tail light is out or missing, okay? and all you have to do is just reset it, it goes away. That happened to me before, and this time around too. I'm not messing with the computer electronics, so I didn't unplug the battery. Good idea if you're going to unplug any electronics, but anyway, I'm not messing with the electronics. I'm not unplugging the O2 sensors, I don't think. I'm just going to have to screw them on, screw them off. But anyway, that's how you get these little bad boys off, and be aware that at least last time I did it, it threw an error code that there weren't tail lights. When I hooked the tail lights back up and they were on, I said to reset the code, done. All right, we'll go ahead and get both these off. Right, something else that might be helpful to you if you haven't messed with some of these connectors. And on the Porsche, this is your plug-in. It's a little kind of button back here. It's actually a lever. You pull it back. Okay. Roll your thumb, pull it back, and then pull out. If you can see inside there, you can see it. Watch. See, it lifts up and takes it off of the little catch. Okay, so that's how you do. It's just up in here and off. You don't have to jam screwdrivers and crap in there. Just a thumb and boom, and you're off. All right, just want to show you all that. All right, so the bumper cover's off. Don't forget that you've got power to the lights for your tags back here, for where your tag is, okay? I did this by myself. Better if you got two people. I've had son and daughter of Shankopotamus help me get this off before. They're all busy right now. So it can be done by one person, but don't forget that you're gonna have to unhook this. It pulls straight out. Let me show you. You got a couple of tabs that you wanna make sure, okay, they snap just a little bit, just lightly snap in. You make sure you don't tear those as you're pulling it out. These tabs here, be sure that you pull those straight out as well, because those fit right underneath here, okay? But it's really straightforward. It comes off very easily. These German cars are just fantastic for working on. The BMWs, the Porsches, they just make sense. Well, anyway, I'll go ahead and get on to the rest of this. Okay, so we're looking at the driver's side, and the guy before me had put on these aftermarket oversized coolers, which also helps with the horsepower. I've left them on here, they work fantastic. Nice little carbon fiber that's actually on the top of these, it's pretty neat. So a couple times I've worked on this, and according to the manual, you're supposed to unhook your air cooler here, and then of course, let's get over here to the intake from the turbo, down here, okay? So, whoops, sorry, here and here. And then unbolt your intercooler from your support here, like the frame, right? And then take it off. I really think I'm gonna try just taking the whole frame off. I think it's gonna be easier with what I've had to deal with before, trying to get this. Always seems to be a little bit of some work to get this thing back up in. And I think last time I ended up having to take the frame off anyway to get this back up into there. I have to go back and look at my old video and see. But I'm gonna give that one a try and see if the thing will come off as just one unit all together. And you can see I've replaced these bands here to hold this on, the ones that came with it. Just kind of break. I've got some new ones if I need them. But anyway, so you got bolts connecting, or a nut here, bolt here. Same thing on the other end. So nut, there's a bolt here, up underneath, bolt at the bottom, nut at the top. Of course, disconnect your hoses, intake here for the turbo. Whoops, sorry, intake here for the turbo. And then the intake here, where the outflow, intake from the turbo, outflow up and into your carburetor, good Lord, I'm way old, and into your fuel injection, your manifold, good intake manifold. Been a long day. Alrighty, so let me go ahead and take that off, and I'm gonna see if this works. It might be a disaster, and I might have to do the other one just like the old ways, but I'm gonna try taking the whole frame off and keep it all together in one piece, and let's just see if that works. Alrighty. All right, so that actually, I think, was a little bit easier. There it is, all in one piece. Still a little bit of a booger to get your intake undone. That's probably the only thing that gives you a little bit of fits there, is just trying to get that off. But yeah, and then I just lifted up this fire shield or heat shield, right? This aluminum heat shield. But don't forget, you're gonna have two of these funky little nuts on here for this heat shield. Then you've got one of those standard looking torque screws right here. And then once you get that off, you see right there is my O2 sensor. So now since I might have to reroute the O2 sensors, you see where I took that off because I came up from underneath, took the one off that was there, just like I showed you on the other side. I was gonna try to put it back on without taking all this off, and you just putting these angled pieces on there, you know, the extensions on there, you just don't have enough room. And I think I may have to reroute the O2 sensor wire just a little bit, which means I may be up here and having all this come apart. And then we'll show you that in just a little bit. Have to get this off to get to the wires easier down here. But here we go. All right, so we're looking at the driver's side, and you know, with our shield up and everything off, it's so much easier to get to it and mess with it. So like I thought in the beginning, this is what you got to do if you really want to get it in there. The other thing, I was able, let me show you this. Messing with your sensors and anything you want anti-seize. So we've had this bottle for a million years, but here's the important thing. You see that right there? Sensor safe, okay? So this is an anti-seize high temp copper formula. Will work for all of your O2 sensors and different pieces we're putting together. I put it onto here and here too, in case I ever have to pull it apart, to come apart a little bit easier. But you want to make sure, there's all kinds of anti-seize out there. Get sensor safe anti-seize, if you're going to put it onto your O2 sensors. All right, I'll show you another little thing here. Let's go up this way. So I was able to just pop off the intake cover right down there. Yeah, see it? It just pops off. There's, sorry, get a focus. A hole here, or a little grommet here, and two more down, like in here, and it just lifts off. These screws are to take your filter off. I replaced the filter a year ago, it's still in great shape. But what I was able to do, let's get down in here, undo this sensor right here, and now that way I can let it twist. You know, because obviously when you screw in, you twist the cables up, or the wires up. You don't want to leave those wires twisted tight like that. One little twist or something, that's fine, but you don't want those wires all twisted up. So this frees it up enough for me to be able to untwist as I twist it in down there, and then I'll plug it back in. And it should fit. I'm hoping the same thing will work on the other side. You see I've got the other air cooler off over here. Came off pretty easy. All right, so we'll get this driver side together. All right, so we're on here. Let's show you. There we go. And good. And as you see, I did have to rig a little bit because of the new position of the O2 sensor being to the back like this, made it harder to undo the twist that the cord was developing, or the wires were developing. So I just fed a piece of string here, real stiff string. Strong. You can yank on this stuff. Anyway, and then now that I've got it in, I'll feed it back up through, pull this back up through, there's plenty of room to pull it through, and reconnect, and that'll be the driver's side done. Oh, one other thing, a little pet peeve of mine. This is how good, if you get a proper inspection on these cars before you buy them, the guy who inspected this car, he found it to be in incredible shape, actually, even for 50-something thousand miles. But he documented that this screw was missing on the housing of the turbocharger. So I just bought a new one. I'm gonna put it in there. But that's pretty amazing to me that out of the entire inspection, about the only thing wrong with the whole car was that there was a screw missing off the housing of the turbo, and he caught that. Anyway, let me pull this back up through, and we'll be golden. All right, so this is looking at the passenger side, and you can see our spacers on there, O2 sensors on there. Had to do the same thing on this side as the other side. It was easier to tie a string and just pull the sensor through. That way you can twist it onto there, tighten it down on there, and then plug plug into the sensor, back up through and plug it in. Really wasn't much of a problem. So just works better to point it back this way a little bit. I was trying to point it down like this from underneath, and there's just not enough room to do that. So you really do have to get the air coolers off and the back bumper, everything off, so you can get to this and actually work on it. Anyway, and once you take all that off, it's actually pretty easy to get these on. So I am going to repair my little cover with the screw on the other side that I talked about earlier. And putting it back together is just the reverse of what we just did. So I'm gonna throw this thing back together, and then we will take a few pics here. Alrighty. All right, so we got the passenger side on. A couple of things that I want to point out that I forgot when I took these off before and put them back on is I don't know how you can get the intake in without loosening up a couple of bolts, because they're just in nuts. Bolts, because they're just in your way. So I take this one off because you don't want this to move around too much. You can reposition it if you miss it, if you get it off. It's what locks in your bumper cover. But up underneath here, this little bad boy, okay, on the other side there, he sticks out just about that much, which is just enough to prevent you from sliding this up. Now, if you've got two people helping you, you could go through and slide this up, have a person hold it, while you then put up the rest of it, right? With the support or not support. The other thing that I had forgotten is to get hooked back up to your intake here. You really need to come and, at least I have to, I can't seem to slide it or get enough force on it. Unhook it here and just slide it off a little bit, and that lets you push against, pushing in the cooler, the air cooler. So you're pushing the air cooler in, you're pushing the hose in this way, and it'll slide right on. You just can't get a hold of it any other way, and it seems like without loosening this up and sliding it off right here, I don't get enough pressure. I can't put enough force against it to get it to slide on the way it needs to. But that's a couple of tips. So I'm going to put the driver's side back on, and then we'll get to work on putting the bumper cover back on. Alrighty. All right, so we are all back together here. Bumper cover's on, tail lights are on. Trust me, down inside of there, the spacers are in. Wheels are still off because I'm going to clean them. My Type A personality is kicking in. I'm going to clean all the dust off of them before I put them back on. The fender well cover's in there. Probably going to clean the brake calipers too and get to them now a little bit better. But anyway, that's it. So that's how to replace the O2 sensor spacers, putting the FabSpeed O2 sensor spacers on the high flow exhaust for the 2009 Porsche 911. Thank you guys for watching. And as always, if this was helpful, please give me a little shout out, thumbs up. Comments are welcome too. Kind comments are especially welcome. And also sign up for the channel if you really enjoyed this and you appreciate it. I'll try to post more when I can. Y'all have a good evening.